Hey class, in this video I'm gonna go over what we're working on this week in week 12 and I'll do a short lecture on setting. This week we're gonna continue working with Godot. We will add collectible items and enemies into the scene, and I'll go over some of the settings for both of those. And then we'll also go over importing models. So we'll look at how to find models on the web and then add them into the scene. In this video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about setting. So I'm going to talk about some of the terms and some of the things that setting helps us do. So I'm going to go over to this setting page. So when we think about setting, I like to use different metaphors and different inspirations. And one of the main ones that I like, and I've linked to a bunch of these below at the bottom of these notes too, is aquariums or other types of sort of like contained environments like gardens and terrariums are good examples. You can see I have a bunch of links down here to some different like videos and examples of these. The reason I like these is because it kind of gives us a sense of how to build a space using a very limited number of elements, which is what we're doing in game design as well. In the real world, there's sort of infinite amount of different things in the world that kind of are the products of the environments that we live in. But in an artificial space or a designed space, we have to choose specific elements, and we have to be careful about those choices so that we can create a world that creates the setting that we want, but also has clear sort of boundaries, clear rules, and then aesthetic value. So one of the things I like about this image here, this sort of creative aquarium, is that it kind of has all of those elements put together. So we have a few different spaces. Those spaces are connected by very obvious sort of tubes that create these kind of connections between these different parts of the world or stages, levels you could think of them. But each space also has unique components, like this sort of bottom left space has like a red plant. Up here, there's kind of like a greenish plant. There's a purple plant. There's sort of an orange plant back there. And so if you're a fish moving around these spaces, even though they have the same elements, you can see the relationship between the spaces. And there's also parts of the space that are unique. So that's something that we want to think about when we're creating games is how do we make our levels and our areas within the levels unique so that our player is oriented in the space and kind of understands what they're doing. We can also see that there's really just a very few elements that tell the story or create the setting in these spaces. So there's plants, there's sand, there's water, and then there's fish. It's really just a few elements, but it creates its own little world. So that's just an example. Let's get into some of the terminology that we'll talk about. So one thing that I want to differentiate is setting and world building. World building is sort of a more general practice that's very important to game design as well, where we create the world of the game. And the big difference there is that your process of world building, you might come up with ideas that never make it into the game itself. So the world of the game is kind of the fictional universe where the game or the story takes place. And the setting are the actual components of the game that communicate the broader world to the player. So the fictional world might be a lot larger in scope. There may be lots of aspects of the world that you've thought about that never make it into the game. The setting elements are the components that reveal that world to the player. So the player learns the world through visual and audio cues about the setting. So we want to include enough details so the player gets a full sense of the world that they're in. But of course, we're limited by file size and processing power. So we need to make choices about what elements make it into the game world that best communicate the setting and the story and everything else that we want in the game. Another distinction we want to make is setting versus level design. So level design is more sort of like the general arrangement of elements in the scene and the flow of the play through the level. Setting is more about the stuff in the scene that we see, not that we really interact with most of the time. So the setting kind of creates the visual understanding of where we are. Level design is more about the flow or the direction that we take through the level. So let's talk about some different types of game worlds. These will kind of inform the elements that you include in your setting. So some of the basic types are fantasy, and you might want to pause and think about games that fit into these types. So fantasy is defined by elements that don't exist in the real world. So that's pretty broad. That could be animals or creatures that don't exist in the real world, like dragons. It could be just like events that don't exist in the real world. So fantasy is elements, of things that probably could not exist in our physical reality. Perspective world is kind of a tricky one, but a lot of games fall into this category, and it's one that I think is really cool. Perspective world is when your player is different from the rest of the world or doesn't fit into the rest of the world. So they have a different perspective. A good example of this is a game that I like called Octodad. You may have heard of that, where you're an octopus, but you're trying to pretend to be a human. So your physics and your existence in the world is very different than everything else in the world. And part of your goal in the game is not to be detected by the human NPCs because your movement is weird or things like that. Our world is just sort of like the normal world that we live in. The Sims is obviously a really good example of this. Our world is just a game where all the physics, everything about the world could be from the real world and is modeled on the real world. Sci-fi is another popular genre that a lot of games either have a heavy component or a small component of. Sci-fi is a bit like fantasy. The difference is that in sci-fi, there's usually some sort of scientific explanation for the things that don't exist in the real world. So if you think about like spaceships in a sci-fi setting, the spaceships would probably have some sort of physical explanation for why they can travel at light speed, or if you have time travel, there would be some kind of physical explanation for why time travel exists in this world. In fantasy, we're not as concerned with those explanations. We just kind of have magic and dragons and other things like that. Historical or period, this is pretty straightforward. These are games that take place in a specific historical time. There's lots of examples of this. I'm sure you're thinking of some. A popular one that students bring up is Assassin's Creed. Games that are set in like a specific time, and then the mechanics and the setting kind of take on that time. The gameplay sort of emerges from what was happening at that time. Mythological is another popular game genre that kind of overlaps with some of these. The main difference in mythological is that some of the characters or some of the settings or some of the other components take place in mythological, existing mythologies. So that could be, Greek mythology, it could be Norse mythology, lots of different examples there. So these are borrowing from, mythological traditions to create the setting for the game. Finally, we have existing fictional worlds. So these are games that take a fictional world that already exists and adopt it for the game space. So an example of that is just like a game based on Star Trek, to use Star Trek again. So that the player will have some basic understanding. You know what Star Trek is. You know what the sort of setting for that is. What some of the science, sci-fi elements of that would be, and so you bring in some of those references into the game world. Another thing we think about with setting is physical dimensions. So when we're thinking about the world we want to create, we want to think about the physical dimensions of the game that we're modeling. So a big starting point there is 2D versus 3D. Right now we're working in 3D, so there's different ways that we can model the world. When we were working in 2D, we use sprites, we use different animations, so there's different ways that we work with the different mediums. Boundaries is another one. Sometimes when we look at a game, we can see the boundaries, but most of the time in a game, you can't see the boundaries. So how do we imply the boundaries of the game? How do we show the player, where to go and how far they can go? Scale is another aspect that we want to think about. In realistic games, we want to match scale to the real world. In fantasy games, scale might be different. We might have really big monsters. We might have really tiny, characters. We can kind of play around with scale to suggest things about the fictional world that we're in. Here we see Sims, that'll be sort of a normal scale. Here we see Katamari, where, the scale is sort of all over the place because you're collecting all these 3D items. So when we're creating a setting, we want to think about the elements that go into the world. There's a few basic categories for this, so this can be a good place to start thinking about something for each one of these categories. So terrain is like, the ground and the environment, the sky, things like that. that set the setting for the game. So if you're interior, or exterior, on grass or on dirt or sand, different things like that. The sort of natural rules of the world, like is there normal gravity? Is there normal physics? Are the physics changed in some way? Flora and fauna refer to like plants and animals. So that's a good way in the scenery to suggest where you are in the world. If you have like lots of plants, that might tell you something about the region of the world that you're in. If you have different types of animals, that will kind of suggest things as well. And then cultural artifacts. These are things that might be in the game that we can't interact with, but tell us something about the game world. You might have signs, you might have books or papers, you might have sculptures, other things that we can see that might not be part of the game mechanics, but tell us something about the fictional world. Then we want to think about what the player is looking at, like the 2D space or the screen space. We have background and foreground. So what are we looking at and what can we see in the distance? We have the vertical space, which in most games tends to be wider than the space we have. The vertical space is up and down. I always switch those. Vertical space is kind of obviously looking up and down versus horizontal spaces seeing across the field of vision. So we think about those things when we're arranging stuff. What is the player going to be looking at? Are they going to need to look up or down? Are they going to need to pan around? We can imply those things with the setting. Time is another component of setting that we don't always think about. So in most games, time just kind of moves forward at a regular rate. But in a lot of games, you can control time, or time might speed up or slow down based on different conditions. So the physical time of the game is another thing that we can control with the setting. So those are a few examples that should help you get started thinking about what you want the setting for your game to be. There's a lot of other inspiration that I included here. Again, I like using like aquariums, gardens, contained spaces that have specific choices. That kind of gives you a sense of how do people design a space. They use color, they use layout, all these other components to create a sense of a space and where to go, what to look for, what's exciting about that space. So I encourage you to take a look at some of these videos and articles on your own. And you may have your own inspiration for setting as well. And when we start to build out our game a little bit today in our demos, we want to think about what elements do we want to include to kind of tell the story of our game world. So that's it for setting. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how to add collectibles and enemies into the scene. And then in the third video for this week, we'll go over importing models. And that'll give you a chance to add some scenic elements as well as some items into your game. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.